Duncan, Tony Stark Rifat, having a chat. Because I can't be asked to do anything technical, so we're going to delve into the enormous knowledge and mind of the semi-bold one over there, and give you people a glance behind the Illuminati window into the real world that's kept hidden from you. Why? Because we can. So the semi-bold one's going to talk to you now. I'm going to drink my beer.
Oh, sorry.
You.
I thought I had more hair than that.
You meant bold, not bold.
He's semi-bold, isn't he?
We're going to chat about...
Let's be honest, he's semi-bold.
We're going to chat about...
Or you're going to chat about anything.
anything.
Yeah, I normally get into all the technical crap, so this is just free and easy, free-flowing talk.
Okay.
So everyone's interested in what's really going on behind the scenes, why Katy Perry, who's neither British or Indian, which you Americans call Asian, we call Asians in our boomer language Chinese, but now millennials call them Asian. So. But anyway, why Katy Perry is the British Asian royal family's front woman for women who are being molested and put upon in India, which of course has upset the flower of the British establishment, the inimitable, the gorgeous, the super intelligent Priti Patel, who's the Home Secretary. So why has Katy Perry been promoted? Well, we've got so many wonderful, gorgeous, intelligent, pretty British Indian women who know about India, who can talk for it. And why, of course, is KP going out with a fucktard like Orlando Bloom, who's dyslexic and is subnormal IQ. Why has this all been promoted? Why has Prince Charles been meeting Katy Perry in India? Why is Katy Perry Hillary Clinton's spiritual daughter and sang at the Democrat convention? Why did Bloomberg, who wants to be the Democratic contender against the great, the wonderful, the humongously orange Donald Trump? Why Bezos? Why did Bezos give shed loads of money to Perry and shed loads of money to Bloom? Why do all the billionaires want Perry and Bloom coming along? What's going on? Now, of course, to delve behind the scenes for my favourite paper, the Daily Mail, there is a little group of Illuminati who do their magic rituals, eyes wide shut rituals, where they have their orgies, which now are open knowledge. And since Madonna has been cast down and exiled to Portugal after her falling off the stage doing her ritual to the great Lord Lucifer at the Brit Awards, and is now in failing health with her toy boy Negro, the royal family needs a new Illuminati queen, and of course KP bloodline goes back to one of the robber baron railway magnates on the mummy side, and daddy's a nutcase preacher. So the royal family have decided that KP needs to replace Madonna because Angelina Jolie didn't fit the bill. They thought she might fit the bill, but she's a failed witch queen. She got ill. Okay, she did in Brad Pitt, but her health deteriorated badly. So in Illuminism you need a queen witch. Madonna was the queen witch for decades, into her Kabbalism and Eyes Wide Shut parties and the rest. Now, of course, KP's been boosted forward, and Gridkeeper, aka Celestial Paladin, aka the semi-bold one, is going to explain to you why a fucktard like Orlando Bloom, who's dyslexic and has a subnormal IQ, even though he was cute but now is aging badly, has been chosen to be the consort to the chosen new Illuminati Queen of the Royal Family. Speechless. Oh, where you go?
Well, I have some notes, fortunately.
So do I. I've got loads of notes.
Have you?
And I've got the Katy Perry t-shirt. Oh, she's got a good beating.
We should look at where Orlando Bloom started, really. Where he went. Well,
No, I don't want to look in his mother's vagina, thank you.
yeah, I mean, you knew a certain person called Max Spiers. I could read a bit, start off reading a bit. Of what,
No, don't read. Just eloquently state from your notes in a chat. It's easy going.
Max went to school with Orlando Bloom.
Exactly. What was the school?
You know? Do you remember what the
Angelic
school
County?
was?
King's whatever?
I could make something up, no one know.
It was King's something.
King's Crown College.
Yeah.
See? He knows a lot.
I don't know that bit. Or do I?
Yeah, I remember we
Canterbury,
know.
near
Well,
Canterbury.
it was near Canterbury. And there's always a lot of talk about Canterbury Cathedral. Which I was always interested in the cathedrals. And, unfortunately never got to meet Max.
But you were now we're going to diverge. We're going to diverge. We're diverging. Warning, cameraman, we're diverging into the super soldier you did know about, who got jailed. You can talk to me. That's really interesting.
Oh, James.
We're diverting into James first. So we're going on a tangent, viewers. For the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to diverge. We're going tangentially.
Yeah, so James.
Which he does know. So how did you meet him?
Well, James, UFO conference.
What was his name?
James Caspell.
And what was UFO conference? Explain.
This was pro up in Blackpool.
Year?
2007 or 2006. One or the other.
Right.
Too important, really. But
Everything's important to
I
our
know.
viewers. Our
Yeah,
viewers
I
are
know.
important. We're here to serve
It
you.
was a long time ago. And I remember being at the conference and everyone kept saying, "Oh, you've got to talk to this chap. You've got to talk to this chap." And James was there with a big folder with lots of information to do with super soldiers, the royal family, and he had CDs with audio that he'd talked about called The Windsors and Satanism.
Wow.
Which was,
This is interesting.
Yeah, and I remember he gave us the CD, and we listened to it on the way home, and it was quite shocking, really.
Well, can you give me a brief summary?
Yeah. Why are you laughing at me? And it was
She's
about...
got the Tony Stark treatment.
It's very often.
Electrodes on every orifice. If it's good enough for the School of Americas, it's good enough for me.
Yeah. And it was about the Illuminati rituals.
Right, I'm interested now.
It was quite severe.
Continue. I want to know everything.
Ooh. Yeah, it was on this CD. It was about what the rituals that the Windsors get up to.
Right. What do they get up to?
Killing young children and other things.
Clean filming around young children.
Killing,
Yes.
Ah. Rituals.
So it's a bit worse than what allegedly Prince Andrew's got up to with Epstein.
Oh yeah. A lot worse.
Got you. What was his proof?
There was no real proof from James. It was just James talking on this CD.
So how did he know?
And it gained contacts. He claimed to have been in a program in an underground base many years ago.
In Britain or America?
In Britain. And his father was linked to MI6 with cocaine smuggling.
Which they do, yeah.
Yeah,
MI6 do loads of drugs smuggling. That's on record, look it up.
Yeah.
Like the CIA.
And he used to talk about how MI5 would make snuff films, and these films would get passed around within circles.
MI5?
Yeah.
Why not MI6?
Well, MI6, yeah. He used to mention both. And they would use them to make videos of people in hotel rooms and things like that, and it's a blackmail thing.
Which links up with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Who's working for Mossad to blackmail all the great and the good, including Prince Andrew.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
And Adam Schiff, Pelosi, Democrats, loonies.
Yeah.
Because Adam Schiff likes young boys.
Yeah.
Pelosi likes young girls.
Yeah.
Allegedly. But it's proven Adam Schiff swings that way, a bit like Schofield.
Oh, the Schofield saga. Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
He's on his toes. And so I sort of contacted James after that, and then drove down to St Ives to see him. And that was quite an interesting experience, and that's when we got into all the orb photography.
Oh, explain orbs. Our listeners might not be interested, or might not be...
Well, the interdimensional beings
or
that...
might not even know what orbs are. He's talking about orbs. What's an orb? Is that,
supernatural spirit.
Is that crystal ball or something?
No, the...
Or, I've got two orbs.
The orbs that people see when they take pictures on camera.
Oh, you mean energy spheres?
Energy spheres with the lights, different coloured lights with faces in.
Yeah, Colin Bloy talked a lot about that, and occultists call them thought forms.
Yeah.
And we talked about the Unified Magic videos, about them coming from the backside of the Kabbalistic tree, Universe B, and being a certain type of Universe B denizen, which they can find on...
James could see them, so he'd point and say there's one there, and I could take pictures of them.
And find them?
Just by thinking about the chip in the camera, and find them, and they'd always appear.
Are they on your website?
Yeah, there's a couple of old videos
of orbs
with orbs in.
Excellent. Yeah. So check Gridkeeper for the orbs.
There's a playlist with some of the orbs in, and you can see there's pictures where
if people pay me, they can have pictures of my orbs.
Well, I've got a friend standing in front of me, and there's hundreds of orbs behind him, forming another being that's looking over the top and things, always behind, and things like that. And there's pictures of a scalar vortex coming out of the stone circle near Balmoral Castle. It's the only time I ever took a picture of one.
Ah?
I held the camera over my chest.
Which links up with torsion fields, all the stuff they did in the Arnhenberger, the German super soldiers did in that Czech deep mine with spinning things.
And if you look at the light coming out of the stone circle, you can actually see the light spiralling.
Yeah, torsion field, yeah.
That just blew my mind when I first saw it. I didn't really understand it at the time.
But it links up with the
more questions.
With the love spirals.
Yeah.
Clockwise, anti-clockwise. Which we can talk about.
Yeah.
And what did you do with James Caspell? And what was his relationship to Max Spear, who's then going to lead us to the Fucktard Bloom?
Yeah, they were good friends to begin with. James moved to America, and things didn't go too well, and him and Max fell out.
Over what? Oh yeah, you told me, because Max Spiers was having sex with his wife.
Yes.
It was, yeah.
Right.
There was things like that happening, and then there was denials, and it all got a bit confusing as to what was really.
And who was who was the wife of your mate? You told me about.
Haley Mayer.
Yeah, we're going to mention it all. I want to give our viewers the whole picture.
Okay, on my YouTube channel, saying this bit.
Well, we can stick it on another channel then. It doesn't matter.
He's
worried about his YouTube channel. So, what was her name?
Haley Mayer.
Haley Mayer.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
And what was
Mayer Supermarkets.
Mayer Supermarkets.
Father Hank Mayer.
And you said
James used to say that her father, the company, all the money from the CIA, the laundered money, went through that company. And
doesn't matter. You can stick it on.
A lot of people never believed that was even real. But James, there was I can't remember, something like Esquire magazine. It was one of those types of magazines in America. And there was photos of James in there in a tuxedo going to, not Sotheby's, what's the other one? Auction thing. Sotheby's.
Oh yeah.
It's quite well known. But anyway, there was a picture of him walking up the steps of Haley, very smart and everything. And it was...
Not Haley Bieber.
No. And there was a lot of sort of well-to-do people in there. Rothschilds. JP Morgan people, and they just wanted James for his bloodline, and they had a child together.
Because he was a super psychic, so they wanted super psychic children.
Yeah, and he had bloodlines from Europe, France.
What bloodlines?
Can't remember.
Merovingian?
Yeah, that one was there. Yeah, but there was a few others he used to talk about, and had a baby, and he was basically left with no money and put in a hotel.
Why?
Didn't need him anymore.
So once he bred,
yeah,
swish, motherfucker.
Swish, yeah. And I remember got a message from James. He claimed Max tried to shoot him. I don't know if that was real, but he sent me a picture of a car he was in with a broken window. He claimed the bullet bounced off him. I'm not sure if that really happened. And yeah, he was stuck in a hotel, and he came back to England. But he also went back to Fort Lauderdale. It wasn't Fort Meade, it might have been Fort Lauderdale.
It's in Florida.
And he spent some time training with the army. And there was a lot of hoo-ha about that, and people didn't believe that was real. And I went down to his house one day, and he showed me the book they gave him when he left the military. And there was James in his army uniform with the guns, quite a few pictures. And he said to me, when they had the child, they wanted a home birth. But he showed me the birth certificate. And the name, I can't remember the name, but it was an underground hospital under somewhere, and we worked out they must have rebuilt. If that was true, they would have rebuilt his flat exactly as he'd remembered it. So they thought it was, the child was born at home, but it wasn't. It was in an underground base somewhere.
A question.
Yeah.
Would the US deep state be trying to breed super psychic super soldiers with their Illuminati super rich bloodlines?
Yes.
Would that be useful?
Yes, it would.
Oh.
One believes so. So,
then that might be the reason why a non-entity like him had a baby with one of the rich girls.
Yeah. And he was told he'd never see his child again.
Yeah, because once he breeds the child, swish, motherfucker.
And that devastated James. It really did.
Oh.
It messed with his head big time.
Well, he's a paternal type guy.
Yeah, and he sort
wants
of-
to.
Yeah.
Was it a boy or a girl?
Boy.
Oh boy.
Dresden, I think. And he was told he'd never see the child again, so he lost his head
And continue with the story. This gets
and
interesting now.
attempted to blackmail Hayley. And he released a load of pictures on Facebook.
What type of pictures?
X-rated pictures.
Oh, interesting.
And
You
I
got any
tried-
copies?
I tried talking to him, and why are you doing this? And he said, I've got no other option. I'm gonna. And he wanted like something like $2 million. He said, if I get the $2 million, at least then I can try and see my son again. That would have been difficult.
Now the story gets interesting.
Would have been really difficult, and he. Yeah, I said to him, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble. And he looked at me and he said, this is what I need to do. Don't worry about me. If it goes wrong, don't worry. Whatever happens, do not worry about me. It's what I want to do. And whatever the outcome is, will be what happens. So of course he got arrested. And he,
Where?
St Ives.
Oh, UK.
Yeah, in the UK. And it,
Luckily, he was arrested in a democracy, so there's no problem.
it was all in the papers. It was in the Sun newspaper.
Was it?
Yeah. And he got there was several years.
How long?
8 or 10 years, can't remember now.
But he has been released now. Tell me what happened when he got released.
Well, we wanted to pick him up.
We'll never see him, would they?
They've never let him. We kept trying to go down. Other people he didn't even really know got in to see him in prison.
Wouldn't it have?
But us, no. Every excuse under the sun to stop us from going to see him. Every time we applied, rang up, going round in circles. Yeah, never got to visit him. I don't know if he ever got any messages from us or whatever. Don't know.
So you never saw him in prison?
No,
When was he released?
no. Last year.
And what happened?
Disappeared.
We wanted to pick him up, and it got known, and he's gone. He's gone somewhere no one knows. Taken away.
Well, did Santa Claus take him or
No,
fairies?
I was told, he's gone to some safe house type of place.
Safe house?
Not, not quite a safe house, and another. I don't know basically where he is. I haven't got a fucking clue, mate.
What, so someone's snatched him and disappeared?
He's gone somewhere, and no one knows where he is.
No one knows where he's
No
gone?
one knows where James is.
Oh.
No one knows.
Would this
where James
be
is,
useful to the American deep state that wants to breed super soldier babies with their top females?
Yeah, possibly.
So
Yeah.
there's no problems.
No.
Could that be?
It could be true. Yeah.
Could be.
It's all
Conspiracy
possible, isn't it?
theory.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Anyway, we've introduced this guy who knew Max Spiers, so it's
Yeah,
rather
James
than
knew Max.
Gridkeeper, aka Celestial Paladin, talking about Max Spiers with no connection. He actually knew Max Spiers' mate, who talked about Max Spiers and introduced Duncan to Max Spiers, even though Duncan has told me he's never met Max Spiers. But the other guy you talked
James.
about, who I've forgotten already, actually met Max Spiers and was having his the mayor woman serviced by Max Spiers.
She was serviced by Kissinger too, wasn't she?
Sorry?
She was serviced by Kissinger when she was 15 as well.
Really? Oh, that's useful. Is she deaf, dumb and blind? Is she deaf, dumb and blind?
No, she was mind controlled.
Ah, she's a mind... Gotcha. So we're getting to mind control. So the Illuminati have MK Ultra. You thought it stopped in the 50s, but in fact it's been developing since then to levels we don't know. So now we talk about Max Spear, who's directly connected to your guy, which then links us to the fucktard Blue.
The reason I always wanted to meet Max because he used to talk about Canterbury Cathedral.
Well, you got a fetish about cathedral.
Oh yeah. Do like a good.
You want to stroke the spire
once in a while, yeah. And he always said he knew a lot of secrets about Canterbury, and to do with Archon stuff and other things.
Archon for you viewers means
Yeah.
in Greek authority.
Greek
That's
authority.
what, if you go into the interdimensional realms, you'll get Archons coming up to you. Do you accept authority? No. So, the whole thing goes to interdimensionals. Many levels. Think of this world being here, and the shamans have been going into the lower worlds, the underworld, which was the greater part of the knowledge, which is the interdimensionals. And the Illuminati have been consorting with interdimensionals with, for example, the Babylon ritual, which you can look up, which Crowley was into, and Jack Parsons, who set up the Jet Propulsion Lab, did in the desert. So consorting with interdimensionals is an intrinsic part of Illuminism, and you can't divorce Illuminati from being possessed or possessing, which is what black magicians like me do. We possess interdimensionals. Do what I wish, bitch. Interdimensional entities. And aliens, of course, that come down and they can phase out, blah, blah, blah. They can go into these interdimensional realms, dark energy matter realms. So, rather than the occult, black magic, with interdimensionals being separate from science, it's just humans in the 21st century Stone Age. They don't understand that there are different layers of the multiverse, and the aliens can phase in, phase out, and travel between interdimensional worlds. And Max Spiers was talking all about this, was he not?
Yeah, and there's a lot he never said, and that's why I always wanted to meet up with him
Gotcha.
to talk about that. But,
But what did he say? Of interest to our viewers.
MK Ultra,
Who was MK Ultra?
Orlando Bloom, for starters.
How did Max Spiers know Orlando Bloom is going to marry Katy Perry,
Yeah.
who is now going to be the front woman for Prince Charles's Indian charity? This is getting interesting.
Which could have been Max. Max could have been in his place, possibly. I don't know. Or
Gotcha. How did
could it have ever gone the other way? And
how did they meet? Right from the start.
they went to private school together, Canterbury, at a
Gotcha.
very young age, I think.
Ah.
And was it when they were 13? It's Max's own words, saying
Yeah, got it.
Orlando is his godfather and was with him when he was baptised at the age of 13 years old with the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Was that
Inside Canterbury Cathedral.
and haven't there been links between Prince Charles and pedo bishops,
Yeah.
which links up with Max Spiers?
Yeah. And he was
Allegedly.
confirmed into the Church of England. That's what he says. And then he talked about multiple chambers below Canterbury Cathedral.
What do they do in these multiple chambers?
Ceremonies, rituals.
What sort of ceremonies? Catholic ceremonies?
No,
Bringing in the light?
SRA.
What does that mean?
Satanic ritual abuse.
What does
of
that mean?
children.
What does that mean?
Well, when in the Unifying Magic videos, we did that part.
Yeah, but
with the
we're just doing general
and
conspiracy viewers here. What does it mean?
Satanic abuse of children.
What is it? What, just slap me in the face and go bitch, or you naughty boy.
No, they're half tortured to death, raped,
Oh,
killed, and it's I know.
so
about
it's
it
paedophile
because-
saw filming type ritual.
Yeah, because it happens a lot, and there's a whole
Why do they do that?
ring of it.
Does that
on,
link up with MK Ultra and alters?
Yeah, and there's a whole ring of it on the south coast of England, which
Who's allegedly involved?
allegedly involved.
Allegedly, we say allegedly. According
Elton
to
John.
Max Spiers, sorry.
Elton John.
Right.
Oh, this information didn't come from Max, but Pam St Clement was on this list. This is just something I was given that made a lot of sense to me, and it was very, very detailed documents.
Gotcha.
And the documents I have, name and shame the whole thing on the south coast from one end to the other.
And who gave you this?
He won't want me to say, he really won't. And if I say it, he might never give me anything else, because there's another level that I want of it.
Oh yeah, because he's got an even more detailed document.
Yeah.
Got you.
That's the only reason I don't want
Got you. So we won't mention it, but he's the
If I
UFO
do,
guy.
I'll never see it again. And then, and it was the locations, you know, that struck me. Arundel Cathedral, Arundel Castle, the Howard family.
Well, are they allegedly paedophiles?
Allegedly. And who was David Frost? So David Frost married into that family. And then you've got, if you're talking about Arundel Cathedral, that goes into the Baroness of Somerset thing that's just come out as well, with the cathedral nodes that
Oh, we'll talk about that in the next part.
we unravel.
Because I need a new beer.
Okay.
Cut. This is part 2 of the inimitable Gridkeeper, aka Celestial Paladin, talking to Tony Stark Rifat about his bottomless fount of knowledge about Illuminism, with me butting in just to upset the apple cart, because you know me, I like causing trouble. So, we're continuing about Max Spiers, who knew his mate the super soldier, who was screwing this male woman, and went to school with the fucktard bloke, who is now going to marry Katy Perry, who's now the new chosen Queen Witch for the crown. I don't want to be controversial.
Arundel.
Yeah, it's got a nice castle.
It has got a nice castle.
I like Arundel Castle. Podium's good.
Oh, in Kent.
Yeah, you took me on a school trip. I like Podium.
Yeah, I used to go there as a kid with my family. Look around. The moat around it. Yeah.
We like castles.
We do.
Anyway,
We
continue.
love a castle. We love a Roy Castle.
No, you might have.
So yeah, Arundel, and there was a thing on the internet not so long ago about, was it the Baroness of Somerset? I think it was Baroness Somerset, wasn't it? Or something Somerset. And there's a website.
Or she's making scrumpy.
Yeah. And there was a list of like a coded messages to members of the Illuminati
Right.
about nodes.
What are nodes? Explain to our viewers what nodes are. Are they
Where-
boils on your buttocks?
No, when you have a ley line running through the ground, they cross at certain points, and you call that a node point.
Huh?
And you have a ley line that travels along the surface, and the node goes 90 degrees to the surface, so it goes straight.
So for an occultist like me,
Yeah,
a
that's
node would
right,
be a
that's
Stargate to Interdimensional realm.
Yes. Yeah.
And
way
when
to
you're
explain it.
when you're dreaming awake or asleep, it's like a spiral staircase that takes you between interdimensional universes. There are 7 of them. So normally you're blocked, but if you get a node, you can walk down the staircase, and there's a whole universe, dark energy, matter, interdimensional universe. Walk down again, another one. Walk down again, another one. Walk down again, 5, and then for the last 2. You need to be merged with a tree, or have killed someone on a tree altar, because the last 2 you can only do by merging with tree consciousness, which is Druidism. But that's an aside. Another story. Continue.
So I went up to the cathedral, and
Well, you went up in the cathedral.
after I read this thing on the website, and it talked about, there was a message about Node 9 in Luxembourg, which is not called a Notre Dame, the Notre Dame in Luxembourg.
Well, the one that burned down. Notre Dame is in Paris.
That was the one in Paris. Yeah, there's another one in Luxembourg.
Ah,
called
right.
Notre Dame. And they called it Node 9. and I thought, well, I'm just going to go up to Arundel and have a look.
What's the number of Arundel?
Don't know. It wasn't on there. They didn't have a number for it.
Because remember they follow the Fibonacci series.
Yeah, yeah. So I walked around it, and you find the 6-pointed star on one side, and the 5-pointed star. I thought, well, where does that go out? And it was right. If you look across the road, you see a wooden building in the castle grounds, and either side of it is a wooden obelisk with a golden orb on the top of each one.
Remember, the last 2 realms, 7 dark energy matter universes, the last 2, you need wood, merging with wood to achieve, so the 2 obelisks would allow you to go down the staircase to levels 6 and 7. And just on the side.
When do you ever see a wooden obelisk? It's all
stone,
you know.
But to get to universes 6 and 7 dark energy matter realm, you need them.
And if you've got an obelisk that weighs, I think it's over 800 pounds, and also the ley lines, or the solitron, scalar wave, they come out of, so you could have one coming out of the top of the cathedral on the spire, and it will arc over like a slinky toy, sort of going down the stairs, and it will arc over and it will go to the next obelisk, or it could go to a dome. And with a stone one, the vortex goes down so far in the ground, but it always comes back to create a double vortex and then comes out. But with a wooden one, it's just a downshift.
Yeah, to universes 6 and 7.
Yeah, so
it's a gateway to hell, basically.
Yeah, so the 2 wooden obelisks have a golden.
What's in between the wooden obelisks?
A domed building.
Yeah, the dome makes up a 3 space
square with a sort of half circle.
Yeah. Remember we took 3 spaces spheres.
Which you can see in Bases 88 on Miles's channel. When we did the walk around Brighton, you talked about that in depth, really. And there's a golden orb on the top of each of these obelisks with a golden, quite thinly pointed star on each one, and that goes into the grounds of the castle. So that probably moves the energy, whatever goes through the ley line, into the castle as well.
And links up with the sun and the 5th dimension.
Yeah, and they do these rituals, and the other places were Old Sarum was on the list in Salisbury. There's a meeting place for satanic rituals.
Is there a new Sarum?
Not in Salisbury. Bewley was on the list, and there was quite a few. There was quite a list, to be honest. Lots of names, addresses, phone numbers, number plates, and then and this was formulated by someone that lived in Lee Park, and it had happened to them. And
what happened to them?
They'd been abused.
What sort of abuse?
Sexual abuse, ritual abuse.
What? Just kissed on the cheek or something?
No. Some of the things they do: put children in coffins, a jar of bees, put the bees in the coffin, shut the coffin, trauma, etc. Horrible things, made to be sick and then eat their vomit. And they...
Any rape?
Yes. Yeah, obviously lots of rape.
Oh, right.
And the list I had, it names a doctor in... I think it's either Ammering or Goring near Worthing. And there was the name of this doctor, and they said if they have a child that they've abused too much, obviously you can't take them to a hospital. They need a doctor. So they have this doctor on the payroll. And there was they say he gets paid, what was it? That was around £4,000 per child.
Gotcha. Did you want a copy of the document? I brought it with me.
Have you?
Yeah. Next time
we can go. It'd be a lot better if I had it with me. I'd remind me about a lot
I
of
brought one with me.
things.
I must be psychic.
Okay, yeah. It's hard to remember when I'm so tired. But it was quite shocking, really. The first, I'd heard about all this before, but to actually read that from a point of view from someone.
Right, continuing to Max Spear and Orlando Bloom.
Yeah. So
not interrupting, but
Canterbury.
remember, we all like A-listers, and we're interested in what the hell was Orlando Bloom doing with Super Soldier and this Max Spear guy. And
I think they were trying to find the strongest mind out of the two of them.
Sorry.
Conscious mind.
Stop you there.
Yeah, go on.
Let's start the big, back again.
Yeah.
They went to school together,
Yes.
and then you jumped to strongest. Sorry, you know, we don't go to school and then strongest mind. So let's.
Oh, they were put into the MK Ultra program.
What? Where?
I don't know. I don't know that much.
What? School?
Quite limited on. Yeah. Oh, yes.
You gotta, you know, fill us in.
And there was one bit where.
Let's start, you know, slowly.
Yeah, Max talked about they were brought into the headmaster's office and some strange bar of soap was brought out and they were told to take a bite.
What palm olive?
Take a bite from the soap, and which was, according to Max, it was confusing for him because
What happened when he ate the soap?
they'd been told. I don't know.
He doesn't
Did they?
remember.
I don't know.
Was it drugged?
Yeah, he said he couldn't remember it properly.
Yeah,
memory stuff.
Yeah,
The memory
so
stuff.
yeah.
You know, yeah. So you don't remember what happened at that time.
So what you're saying that Spear and Bloom were abused and part of the MK Ultra program,
Yeah.
which was being run by pedos in their school.
I have a name.
Sorry?
I have a name.
Duncan, yeah, I know your name.
John Scarlett.
Yeah,
Which you know the name.
who
You
became
know this
head of
person.
MI6
Head of
for
MI6.
Tony Blair for the war against Iraq.
Yeah.
Mr. Scarlett used to run MI6 under Tony Blair,
Right.
just by chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were alleging that he was a rampant paedophile,
I am.
sadist
Yes.
of the worst order.
Yes.
Gotcha. We were talking about that.
Yeah. And then the movie. Then.
Take it slowly. You know, you're jumping. A movie. What does movie go from school?
He went to stage school.
Yeah, they went. I think he went.
They went to stage school.
Stage school.
Right.
Because he was dyslexic, so he couldn't read very well.
What? Duncan is.
No, Orlando Bloom.
Oh.
So he had to go into the arts because he wasn't clever enough to do anything else.
Yeah, we all know he's a fucked up. That's obvious. Right. So he went to stage school. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But you talked about there's been some sort of
there was a part that came up from a
fight
movie.
or something. Was there a fight or not? Or
No, Max said there was no fight.
No
it
fight.
was just a rumour made up by someone.
Gotcha.
Apparently. And
So what Max Spear was alleging was that Bloom and him were sexually abused, altered with MK Ultra, many different, abused in every orifice, and turned into split personalities, and there was some linkage between them, the ritual done between him.
Memory transfer.
yeah, to do with memory transfer, where they could access each other's memories.
A telepathic link,
Telepathic link. Yeah. Yeah.
which the Russians have been developing telepathic hypnosis.
Yeah, and he said.
60% of the Russian psychic warfare program was telepathic hypnosis. If you don't believe this works, it was part of the Cold War technology. So who was hypnotising who? Was Spear hypnotising the fucktard, or was the fucktard hypnotising
cellular
Spear?
memory was placed in Orlando Bloom from Max.
So the telepathic hypnosis was coming from the super psychic Spear into the dummy
Into
fucktard Bloom.
Orlando.
Telepathic hypnosis. He was the receiver in every way.
Yeah.
Did Spear ever have anal intercourse with Bloom?
I don't know.
Gotcha. Probably did for the transfer.
And this, you know, if I'd have spoken to Max and we'd have spent time together, maybe we could have shared more information and I would have
Gotcha.
known a lot more. Quite disappointed.
So
Never actually met him in person, really.
the British were experimenting with telepathic hypnosis, linking one boy with another boy using MK Ultra technology in the 50s, and of course sodomy and fellatio and all the other things to link them energetically.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because then, of course, you can do transference of one energy body into the receiver, and if you kill the the one, the original one, you can then put like 2 bodies in one body to make it stronger. But of course they didn't kill Max Spear, did they? Because that's what they would have had to have done if they were trying to augment the fucktard Bloom. Wouldn't they? He'd have to be killed. Transference into Bloom to try and build a double body, which is the Nagwal Man, the 4-vector man. Nagwal men are the only ones who can do the super psychic stuff, and instead of having 2 lobes like a normal person, they got 4. So this would then be a program to build a artificial Nagwal from a fucktard like Bloom by putting the 2-lobe of Spear into Bloom, but the only problem there would be by telepathic hypnosis, but the only cellular quantum mechanical merging, but the only problem there would be it would only work if you actually eventually, once it completed, killed Spear. But of course that didn't happen, did it?
Oh, I think.
Or did it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that maybe later. Continue.
We'll get
continue.
to that.
Continue. I'm just explaining all the secrets behind all of this stuff so that our viewers understand that there's a whole science behind all this, which I know totally, and where the British have been trying to make artificial Nagwals, these 4-lobed humans from fucktards, because they're the super soldiers that can control the Montauk energy body. Well, that's another story. Continue.
Well, to the movies?
No, we need to step by step. So, stage school, because you're losing me otherwise. I gotta take it slowly.
Went to stage school.
Yeah.
Become actors.
Why? Why would that be important to the Illuminati that fucktard Bloom became a...
Observers for a movie.
Oh, powering him.
Powering
To
him.
power.
Yeah, power.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which yeah.
Really
Observation.
Observation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
And the characters, he said the characters he played were fractured parts of real life happenings of Max's life.
Which would be the transfer from Max Spear into Bloom to build this artificial Nagwal, 4-lobed super being, which is needed for all psychic phenomena. If you read the Caspell books.
Yeah.
There's only one downside: Spear would eventually have to die in this process. But they use the power of the observers for the Jungian archetypes within Spears' mentality, put them into films which Bloom could play, so the audience could forcibly pull them out of Spear and merge them with Bloom. That's a real big plan.
It is.
So the fucktard Bloom is really important to the West.
Yeah.
He could be the key to the future of the West. Their super Nagwal man. Wow, this is quite a big story. Continue. Films? What films? Why? Blah, blah.
Wow. The movies Troy. Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven was the Christians taking, was it Jerusalem? In the war against the wonderful Muslims. Of which yours truly.
Pirates of the Caribbean. And Lord of the Rings.
Where he was an elf. And according to
a 3,000-year-old elf.
according to Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings books were real and were actually aspects, real history from the past of the Earth. According, reading his biography, he was actually channeling what happened in the past for Lord of the Rings. So Max Spears would have been Elf King, or an aspect of him.
And he said when the films are made, he was able to access Max's memories as partly. He said these movies were partly about Max, and the characters he played were fractured parts of real life happenings of his parallel lives.
Yeah, so it's obvious the British MI6 who used Ostrander and Schroeder to hoover up everything that was available from the Russians on their psychic warfare program, given to MI6. Were trying to develop a artificial Don Juan or Nagwal Julian that could do all this super psychic stuff, and merging two males together would actually give you a Nagwal if they could carry it out.
So you have one hidden being Max, and then the observed Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, transfer from
Yeah.
Spear
Yeah.
to Bloom, and once they think it's complete, they kill Spear off.
And maintain, as Max said, maintaining the subconscious predictive programming for the general public.
Yeah.
And he said an anagram of Max Spiers' name is Paris Sex M, the letter M, and he said the M is representative for 13 and means it's multiple lifetimes in a loop.
And 13, of course, is the negative spiral to destroy things. Destroy Max.
Yeah. And being like
Negative torsion field, squeezing out.
Yeah, Prince Paris in Troy, so they could transfer his memories of that lifetime into Bloom's cells and superconscious.
To produce an artificial Nagwal.
Yeah.
Who would then marry the new queen of the Illuminati, working for the crown, Prince Charles.
Yeah.
Oh, we're starting to see a picture here. Oh my goodness, why is Katy Perry with Bloom?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
He didn't talk about that ritual. He's written it was a nasty ritual.
What does nasty mean? Does that mean that people
Horrific.
said you're a naughty boy, or you're a fucktard?
A horrific experience, I would say.
What? Watching an Orlando Bloom film?
Yeah. He didn't want to talk about it. Maybe if I'd have met him, he might have opened up to me. I could have learned that. I don't know.
He might have opened up to you.
Who knows?
Hope you brought some Vaseline.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Vaseline.
Nice link.
And he says, you know.
Are you a real tiger?
Yeah. And it was the character's story is Legolas.
Legolas, yeah.
Legolas.
Legolas.
The character played
It needs a lot of these to make me legless.
3,000-year-old elvish warrior prince, and he said the same ritual was used for this film. And after so many times of stealing and using Max's memories and brutally traumatising Orlando, the project was finished.
I'd love to brutally traumatise
You would,
Orlando.
I know you would.
I'm brutally traumatising non-stop. Psychic warfare.
He said the project was finished as far as the memory transfer was done.
Then you need the Death Force to finish it off. Remember Death Force? Seal's ritual.
Yeah.
So, if this is true, then Spear would have to die horribly with loads of publicity.
Yeah. And Max died in Poland. And it's quite a conspiracy about how he died.
Oh, tell me.
Um,
I'm getting excited. Death.
the basics
Us
of
black
it,
magicians, we love death.
he died in a flat in Poland, and they said there was black gun goo oozing from everywhere, basically.
Wow.
And rumours, nothing substantiated at all, but just rumours of a lot of black magic, satanic ritual going on around him.
But of course, if you're transferring him
yeah.
into Bloom to make the Super Nagwal, or the Nagwal,
You know, and the names, it's confusing to who was involved with that or wasn't, etc., etc. But you say the public observing, you know, if you Google it, it was in every news outlet in the West almost, you know, America and England.
But why, you know, Max Spears, how do they know, you know?
Sun,
Yeah,
and it was...
But why? Was Max Spears well known?
It was even on... no, and it was even on BBC4
Yeah,
There was
but
talk
why?
about
Just
it.
some fucktard dies in Poland.
Exactly, you know.
Because they need the
They
publicity
needed the
to
publicity.
power the death force
To power the death
for the
force.
finishing of the ritual.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about the body lying on the floor and all that.
They said, and this is in the newspaper reports, that they left his body on the floor in the flat, and the paramedics turned up, and they left. The body was left on the floor for another 24 hours. No real post-mortem, according to the newspaper results, and Max's mother had asked for a proper autopsy, and they said they needed Max's consent, which is just...
It's okay, you just grab his hand and sign it up.
Which is just, yeah, it's ludicrous, isn't it? Really, but, yeah, so, that, and there was a lot...
Well, Chandler, he told me the autopsy's okay.
You know, and they even said that, you know, that the investigation from the Canterbury police or whatever, and the police in Poland was just a total farce. It was...
Well, which you would expect if the British had been trying to build their own Don Juan, Nagwal man.
Mm-hmm.
So what's special about the fucktard balloon? Why would they choose a piece of scum like that?
Jewish bloodline.
That's true. Yeah, but, you know, there are loads of fucktard Jews.
I don't know.
Gotcha.
You're going to tell me.
I'm not. I'm just
I've
saying.
always wondered why blown. You know, was it just There was a lot of children that were experimented on in these programs.
Gotcha.
And they were the two that made it above everyone else.
So there
were
was
the
a breeding
strongest.
program.
Yeah, the strongest minds they could find to do it. But I
Wow.
don't know why they'd say that. about
Then
Orlando.
Britain's fucked.
Yeah,
If they're the strongest mind you can find, Orlando balloon. Holy fuck.
exactly.
So all the rest died off or killed off by the experimentation. So they're a breeding program,
Yeah, yeah.
like Agent 47,
Yeah.
and that's the IQ of balloon.
And it's here actually. So Max said the experiments, just they wanted to see if they would work without killing them or turning their minds to mush. They both survived, but he says thousands of boys ended up dead or permanently consigned to a psych ward.
But they fell with balloon because his brain's mush.
I wonder what caused that.
All the MK Ultra stuff. And listening to KP non-stop, that turned anyone's brain to mush, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. So it was like, you know, the Nagwal, they were looking for the strongest mind and body.
Which for their breeding program. And the two that survived, they could do the transference to make their artificial nag, because they can't find a Nagwal, because Nagwals are super rare, and you need to be able to see energy bodies to find one.
Yeah.
So they decided from the Castaneda work,
He said that
they were going to build their own artificial one. These British bastards are clever. Naughty! Naughty British people! Naughty! Naughty!
He said the Illuminati knew who they both were in like previous lifetimes before they were even sort of born type thing.
Gotcha.
He said his own words, before we arrived in this body temple that we are using now.
Wow, so they were using incarnate. Yeah,
big plan.
The British establishment has been doing some heavy-duty occult psychic warfare.
And John Scarlett headed the experiment.
Who later became head of MI6
Talked about earlier.
for the Iraq War. Scarlett, Iraq War.
Yeah.
For the massive sacrifice in Babylon to power their ritual. So obviously Bloom is the future of the West.
And Iraq was a lot of death.
A lot.
Of death. Millions.
So Bloom is vitally important to the Western Britain, and is going to be used for massive psychic warfare against Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, etc.
Yeah.
So if anything happens to him, that's the end of that program. So please, Russians, Chinese, North Koreans, Venezuelans, Iranians, Cubans, and Mexican drug lord gangsters and the rest don't touch Bloom because he's vital to the Illuminati conquest of the world using their Nagual super being.
He said it all changed at the end of the filming of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, where his altars started bleeding through.
What, Bloom's?
Yeah.
So he started breaking,
Yeah.
fracturing.
Fracturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did they?
You can't keep him in one
Yeah,
mode at a time. It's
trying to put the two together and it starts to break. So how did they try and keep them together? What was the glue?
Miranda Kerr. MK.
Oh, MK. Ultra Miranda Kerr.
Ultra woman.
Gotcha. What did she
She
suck
put her
his
in a
face
movie.
and try and glue him together with her
Yeah,
vaginal excretions?
Put her in a superhero movie called Ultra.
So she then became his handler and bled energy off.
Yeah, keep him in line.
No, bled energy off him.
Yeah.
Because if you're starting to fracture too much energy, can't
Yeah.
contain the vessel,
Yeah.
drain energy off to
Into
make the
her.
fucktard fling. Boy, which then takes energy away and then whoop, it can hold it. Too much energy, it starts to fracture, got to bleed it dry, bleed energy off. When males have boy children, they lose energy. Which then, that's why they've got children, then means that the vessel doesn't need to contain so much energy and the fracturing stops. Cut.
Clever.
So remember, if you're going to do a conspiracy theory video, you've got to put a tiger in your tank. Or in my case, got 3 already. Now, the inimitable, incredibly knowledgeable Gridkeeper, aka Celestial Paladin, aka Mi6's most hated man now, is going to continue with this super secret black op by Mi6 to build a Nagual man that can do strategic psychic warfare to destroy Russia, China, North Korea, communist countries, Iran, and of course Venezuela, Cuba.
As we continue spearheading the evolution.
Wow, a pun. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir. It took me 45 years to create my first pun. So, Miranda Kerr, MK.
You must admit she's fuckable. That's just another story.
Digress.
Max mentioned many of the teachers at the private boarding school, didn't mention their names, were involved on a need-to-know basis, and he called them masters.
So we're actually having a real Agent 47. If you've ever seen Agent 47, it's about little children that go into a super soldier program and are genetically altered to become super soldiers. Here we're using energetic augmentation, where all the children that die go into the ones that remain. The last 2, one is going to be killed, and then all that energy goes into the last one, which in this case was the fucktard Bloom, who then started to unravel, because remember, when you merge energy bodies together, you've got to have the agglutinizing force, like a glue, and if you don't have enough of it, then think of it like a torsion field, positive torsion field, negative torsion field holds together, positive torsion field expands, so you're putting a positive torsion field in and you've got to hold it with a negative torsion field. So if Orlando Bloom can't hate enough, then he can't hold the energy together. Black magicians we fucking hate, and we produce immense negative torsion fields, so we can have huge amounts of energy encapsulated within us. But Bloom's a, actor, pretty nice guy, and can't generate that malevolence. So he starts to unravel, his alters, that's basically the fracturing of the energy body. So you need to bleed him off, and his handler, Miranda Kerr, bleeds it off with Flynn, the little male boy they have, which then bleeds off energy, and hopefully he stabilises. Well, not hopefully, but that's from their program. So he'd be the occult warfare Agent 47 if you watched the film.
Yeah, and Miranda Kerr was to also stop him from remembering what happened at the boarding school.
Because they want him basically as a Nagwal that is totally controlled by his handler.
So the masters reinforced the programming to both of them with the use of violence and multiple forms of sexual trauma.
And then, of course, Miranda Kerr continues.
Yeah.
So she must have been violently traumatising him.
And here's the bit about the soap. I'll read it as he...
And so KP must be violently traumatising Orlando Bloom. Yeah. We all know that Russell Brand... That's me violently traumatising KP. We all know that Orlando Bloom is going to be the second husband. The first one's Brand, who was taken by KP to one of her Hillary Clinton pizza rituals, where they get up to all the satanic abuse and ritual cannibalism, and he ran off to the UK and divorced her by text. So we all know that KP is a hardcore Satanist like Hillary Clinton, who's her mentor within Satanism. So she's the perfect handler for Bloom, who supposedly is going to be the Nagwal man who can then use strategic psychic warfare to get Russia, China to destroy themselves, as Colin Bloy and me did with the Soviet Union.
As for the soap bar incident, Max said he felt that this was in fact a screen memory, and that something else happened that he can't recall it. And every time he goes back to try and remember, there's a sort of firewall block. He felt it was some form of reinforcing the memory transfer.
Yeah, with MK Ultra, what they did was traumatise the victims. Cameron, a Canadian doctor, used to put people into morgue coffins, give them colostomies, leave them there for 6 months to completely erase their minds. And it only got upsetting when I think it was the daughter of the wife of the Canadian Prime Minister was processed, which was a bit too far. This violent editing of the victim allowed the MK Ultra wetware to be programmed to be a super assassin or a member with a photographic memory, or they would then experiment whether they could get psychic powers. I talked to my mate from the CIA who came over in '97. He was talking about hypnotic remote viewing, where they could hypnotise people, and they were getting picture-perfect remote viewing. Link them up to a computer now with Elon Musk's brain implants. You go on TV screen. He was talking about that way back in '97. So as you can see, MK Ultra would then enable you to produce psychic abilities from people, and then if you could merge two of them, which top of an evolutionary tree where only two were left after massive torture competition, you would then be able to build an artificial Nagwal, which is 4 loads instead of 2, which is the key to accessing the Montauk, monster of the id, which is being able to transfer your awareness into the full vector of electromagnetism, which needs you to have a 4-load energy body. So the Montauk experiments, which ended in 1970, with the monster killing all the psychics, and running amok, and they had to close it down. If you could get a totally mind-controlled four-lobed Nagwal, which could then produce a Montauk monster of the id by linking up to a Sage radar EM broadcaster, you would then have the ability in that one person who's totally controlled now, and you've gotten rid of the monster of the id by erasing it, MK Ultra locking the monster of the id away in one tiny little room and having a free, clear, as in Scientology, artificial Nagwal, totally controlled by the handler. You would then be able to manipulate the monster of the id, this 4-vector, using EM, and be able then to strategically mind control, psychically warfare, all of Russia, all of China, conquer the world. Big plan.
Mm-hmm.
Max felt there was a bigger plan coming for both of them.
Which I've explained.
Yeah. But he didn't know what it is exactly.
No, he does.
He had a pretty good idea.
It's a bit late, he's dead.
He does know. He wrote, since the ceremony happened when they were both 13.
13, of course, which is
Yeah.
linking up to the Fibonacci series, 13th term of the Fibonacci series 233, and negative torsion field to contain the energy, linked around 13. So you did the ritual when you're age 13, just by coincidence.
And then we move on.
Move on to where?
Another part.
Whoa. We move on. We're
Globes.
dating.
Golden Globes Ricky comes into this.
Well, he's got light bulbs in the testicles.
Ricky Gervais.
What's he got to do with...
What has he got to do with this?
Why don't we bring in Ricky Gervais? I'm confused.
It sounds confusing, doesn't it?
I know.
It can be explained, as Max said.
Have you been MK Ultra?
Me?
Yeah. Well, and Ricky Gervais.
Where's the connection?
Where's the connection? That's it.
Thanks, Dunk.
Let's take this from, as Max said it. Ricky Gervais's hugely successful television show, The Office, plays a role in this. First off, Gervais is a French name, and Ricky, and Max actually writes in brackets, sorry Ricky, is in fact not English. He is deeply French and has Merovingian blood running through his veins, as do I, and so does Orlando. Around the time of Thomas Becket's murder in Canterbury Cathedral in 1170,
Who was Thomas Becket?
He was just the guy murdered in Canterbury Cathedral.
But why was he murdered?
I can't remember.
Well, to explain to our viewers...
When I'm tired, I forget things, you know.
Henry VIII.
I explained to our viewers,
It's late,
Thomas
so
of Becket was talking against Henry VIII, because Henry VIII wanted to start up his own religion and go against the Vatican, and Thomas of Becket was standing up against Henry VIII and said, he's a heretic, he can't do this, he's going against the true religion, Catholicism, he can't set up his own faith, Church of England. So Henry VIII, in good old Anglo-Saxon, well he wasn't, he's Norman, decided that he wasn't having any of this, so he had his knights slaughter him in
Canterbury Cathedral.
There we are, you got your answer.
And the blood, you can still see the blood stain on the floor of the cathedral.
Yummy, yummy for vampires.
I've been there when I was a child. It's the only thing I can remember about going there, seeing that. So he said there was a priest there at Canterbury Cathedral known as Gervais of Canterbury.
When? Last year?
Around 1170.
When was Becket killed?
Around 1170.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a story about he looked up and saw blood coming down from the moon, and this happened.
Oh, it was a super psychic.
Yeah, this happened multiple times.
Was that priest there when Becket was killed?
Yes.
So then you could, of course, have the original transference of Beckett into Gervais, which would be the template for the MI6. Spiers into Bloom.
Yeah.
Remember, MI6 are fucktard, so they need to have, you know, super psychic Gervais, powered by the death of the saint, talking against the evil.
Someone
Beckett.
certainly played the long game in this one.
Spear.
Yeah.
A saint talking against all this evil, going into the high priest Bloom, who can then do his things in the eyes wide shut ritual.
So how much does Ricky Gervais really know about all this? Because when he created The Office, there was a character in The Office called Tim Canterbury. Tim Canterbury, the actor that played Tim Canterbury, was Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman is...
Well, the black guy?
No.
No.
The hobbity guy. And,
Small and white.
yeah. And he is, comes from one of the, as Max said, very famous 13 elite families, the Freeman family.
So they were linking a time bridge between the natural transfer from Thomas of Becket into Gervais into Spear Bloom via the medium of Gervais.
Gervais, yeah. With lots of The Office was a very popular program watched by a lot of people. Very popular.
And we had the
And
little
then-
hobbit guy,
And then
With,
yeah.
the
So-
elf, Legolas.
Yeah, and it was 10 years later with Ricky's, he said Ricky's very powerful pull in Hollywood business. They cast Martin Freeman, Tim Canterbury as Bilbo Baggins in the Hobbit franchise of the movie.
Gotcha. With Orlando Bloom again.
With Orlando Bloom as well. And the front cover of the first movie, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, has an extremely symbolic front cover. It has Bilbo Canterbury about to walk through what appears to be a circular portal vortex point which represents the entrance and exit point to the inner earth below the cathedral in Canterbury.
Yeah, timeline between the natural transference from Beckett into Gervais to power the modern one from Spear into Bloom.
So Max then stated that his memories became clearer, and he was addicted to drugs. And he said the disease of
Which of course moves the assemblage point, which allows the transference.
and the disease of the addiction that was induced into him is on remission. With the help of a support group, he can now slowly recall what the hell went on. So he starts to remember, Max, what really happened, and he's I suppose he's hell-bent on piecing it all together and finding out what it's all about himself.
But once he achieves total realisation, they're going to kill him.
Yeah, so he's now getting very close to that.
Yeah.
So he's getting close to the point. And
Well, they're going to kill him. Once he achieves realisation, achieve the unity of all the fractures in his body, kill him to transfer it to Bloom.
Yeah, and he said, my fear with this is that as I let go and surrender to the entity of addiction, it loses its power and I integrate my fractured self. This is the controller's worst nightmare. With full recall, I become the most dangerous man to them.
Yeah, but then they kill him.
Then they kill you.
So if you read the Castaneda books, when they burn the fire within their assemblage point, bounces around to every position that they ever experienced.
Yeah.
So with the fractures, you when you're about to die, you bounce around and recollect all your fractures, all your alters. Then they kill you.
Yeah.
Burn with the fire from within, but then you've linked yourself to the other one. So instead of burning with the fire from within, total transference into the other one to produce an artificial Nagwal man, which then can be used against Russia, China, and link up with the Montauk full vector monster of the id, totally controlled. Hopefully the monster of the id, the nasty bits have all been suppressed, and we can then use that to get the Russians to bring in a new Khodorkovsky, and the Chinese to fracture, have another Tiananmen Square and plagues and various other stuff.
And he said the secrets to, well, their secrets, the Mi6 Illuminati secrets, he said were contained within his DNA strands, and he can start to undo all that has been done. The more he said, the more he awakens, the more they send people into his life to keep him repressed and asleep.
And monitor.
Look at what happened in Poland. He used to go over there and stay with a Polish woman, and there was times when he was quite groggy and asleep and felt very ill when he was there, which would make sense.
So she was his handler. Because then they'd have
one wonders.
They would then have the final altar, which, when he's actually assimilated all the other altars, he dumps into the last altar, which means he's ready to be killed.
And he was killed in that room. That was the same room he was killed in.
Which, of course, was the start of World War II, linking up with a huge blood sacrifice. Yeah. War started in Poland. To link up with them. Yeah.
That's why when he was taken to Poland. Yeah. Manipulated to...
Exactly. The big blood sacrifice ritual of World War II starting in Poland, initiated. Because remember, they want to use Bloom and this super Nagwal, well not super Nagwal, but Nagwal, to then use strategic psychic warfare on the Russians, Chinese, conquer the world. So Bloom is vital to the West. I don't know, you couldn't have chosen.
Yeah. So this document that Max wrote, written by his own hand, he wrote, and they would have seen this stops now. That's what Max said, we have already won. So he's got this, not knowing what they're doing or thinking, or what their plan is, their backup plan in case it starts to go wrong. And he said, Max said, it is now a waiting game to see what their next move is. They have become sloppy and predictable, almost like a crocodile always moves his head in the same direction when a piece of meat is dangled in front of his face. Till it bites you. And then he just wrote a bit about the Gervais of Canterbury, talking about the moon bit that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And which we don't have to talk about. It's just
no.
The moon thing. And
remember, I can talk about anything.
And that was it. That was what he wrote, and then he was killed. That was it.
Which would then have the transference to the fucked up moon.
Yeah, and like I say, when you just look at the amount of newspaper reports, the media...
When he died, 2014 or something?
16?
2016?
Yeah. I don't know the actual date he actually died. But I know this was written in 2016.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, when he died.
Well, it's about the right time that KB started dating Blue.
Yeah. Yeah. And here we are.
Yeah. So now we can see why KP is with Orlando Bloom, because he is the built High King of the Illuminati with this artificial four-lobed energy body, and is the future of the British Empire.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing we're not talking about it.
Good, isn't it? Yeah, I would never talk about this.
Otherwise, people would start to wonder why are the royal families cozying up to Katy Perry, why Bloomberg's cozying up, Hillary Clinton, Bezos, and many other billionaires.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah, and the Greek heirs, billionaires, wedding with Bloom, and then Perry comes along. And of course, why we've got the Amazon thing with Bloom about, you were telling me about some fantasy world series?
Carnival Row.
Yeah.
What's Carnival Row?
About fairies.
It's about fairies.
Is it?
And those, what were those, the horns?
Yeah.
Satires?
The horned people with like a ram's horn on their head.
Just goat people.
No, they're like goat people, weren't they?
Or
Yes.
from Pan?
Yes, that was, yeah, very much like that. Yes, yeah, oh yeah. Because the legs as well, yeah, Pan.
Yeah. Satires.
Yeah, yeah. And his girlfriend in there was
Cara Delevingne.
Cara Delevingne. She was the fairy girl.
Gotcha.
They were in love.
From the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
No, ex-model.
Wasn't she the baddie? In the
Ex-top model.
Yeah. She was
Evil
the baddie,
sorceress.
The evil sorceress. Yeah. Yeah, she was the evil sorceress
in
in
Suicide
Suicide
Squad.
Squad. Yeah. I quite enjoyed watching that actually.
Comes from a
It's quite-
very
it
powerful
was quite
family too.
interesting.
Does it?
It's very interesting.
Very
Wow.
wealthy.
So as you can see, the British establishment is, since they can't find super powerful beings, they try to build them. Which is a bit of a bummer when they come across naturally super powerful nagwals like yours truly, who feed off Bloom as their, their torch toys.
And as Max said, he was involved in Project Mannequin in the UK, which was an extension of the Nazi Uberman Superman project.
Yeah, which is what's called the Ahnenerbe.
The Ahnenerbe, to create a warrior and a breeder. Connections to Montauk, time manipulation projects.
So with for Montauk, they connected psychics up to the Sage transmitter, and if you're going to connect people up to the Sage transmitter in physics, electromagnetic radiation is a 4 vector, so it's got 4 different directions. So if you're a normal person who's only got 2 lobes, 2 bits to you, then you can't be connected to a transmitter and produce a monster near. So you need to be a nagwal, 4 lobes. But there's only like 1 in 10 million in the past, maybe now, maybe 1 in 50 million, 1 in 100 million, because of the degradation of the energy field of humanity. So if you can produce a natural one and MK Ultra it, so the monster of the id, which is the natural urges to kill, go mad, blah blah blah, can be suppressed and then controlled externally by a handler. You then have the ability to manipulate this 4 vector vehicle to do strategic psychic warfare. Why would that be important? Well, think of my videos on psychic warfare, cell signal transduction, being able to, with minute amounts of energy, control the health of the cells in a population's body. Or the ATP, NADH plus produces energy, shut that down, 20 seconds they're all dead. Or making sure that the pathogen in the body isn't recognized by the immune system, so they die from it. Coronavirus. So with one nagwal man or woman connected up to Montauk type equipment, you can strategically decimate whole nation states. So you see why MI6 has been interested in this technology and why the Illuminati are, and why it's vital to the Georgia Guidestones to cull the population. Imagine with a nagwal, you can connect it to the 4 vector, monster the id, and then simply get large amounts of the population dying. So they can't fight viruses, coronavirus, or they get life dysfunction, NADH+, plus, ATP shut down, or cell signal transduction, so they get ill, very ill, and instead of being obese, fat, they just die quickly. So as you can see, control of this technology is vital for the future. And since MI6 were collecting all the Cold War info that Ostrander and Schroeder were collecting, they would be desperate once they knew from the Castaneda work, which on Wikipedia, all false. But of course, the Castaneda stuff was talking about real events, even though Castaneda might have been just a mouthpiece for real people behind the scenes using him. With this technology, of course, you can use psychic warfare to control the world. Kulagina could stop a heart beating. Frog's heart, look at the 1988 CIA document, stopping hearts beating. American psychic could kill a mouse.
They stare at goats.
Stare, yeah, but it's in the CIA document from 88. So the amount needed for cell signal transduction changes to make people ill, NADH plus, ATP, shut down, or making the body not recognise pathogens so they kill you. If your immune system doesn't recognise a pathogen, it will kill you. That's minuscule compared to stopping a heart or killing a mouse. And with a Nagwal being able to merge with the electromagnetic 4 vector, you've got a whole world of strategic psychic warfare, which means Illuminism can take over the world if they can build a Orlando Bloom who is totally controlled and mind controlled. Fuck, his handle now at the moment's KP, who then can tell him what to do, and the monster he generates is a mind control monster, an MK Ultra monster, which is like a beaten monster, prodded, electro shock therapy, and will do what it wants. So as you can see, MI6 and the Illuminati have been desperate for this technology, and real world Nagwals like myself, who do what we want, aren't fit for purpose because we just do what we want. So they need their own little artificial ones, but unfortunately the artificial ones don't hold a candle to the real ones like me. Hence, of course, Bloom is nothing but a torture toy. I can simply just extract all the energy from Bloom to me, so the entire program's finished, because you simply call up Bloom, extract the energy, there we are, on camera, all Orlando Bloom's energy from all that massive experimentation done to me on camera to finish the video off, because remember, there's no point doing a video unless I benefit from it. Cut. Tony Stark Rifat.
Celestial Paladin. Sorry.
Celestial Paladin, aka Semi-Bold One. Part 4, where we're discussing Max Spiers and Orlando Bloom, Katy Perry, and the Illuminati. Now, we ended with the whole thrust of MI6 being to try and build a artificial Nagwal 4-lobed being which can be used for massive psychic potential. And we know that Orlando, the fucktard Bloom, has been chosen by the Illuminati as the new king of the Illuminati because he's dyslexic with a subnormal IQ. as the ultimate psychic powerhouse of the Illuminati West, and just to prove the point, the crown, which is the upline for Illuminism in the West, was elevated to gigantic heights when Katy Perry, who's the Queen Witch taking over from Madonna, pushing Miley Cyrus, who'd been promised to take Madonna's place out of the way. We know the royal family went to stupendous heights of power when Katy Perry got engaged to Orlando, the fucktard Bloom, and everything went right for the royal family after that, proving the supreme power of this artificial nagwal, where Max Spiers' best parts had been merged with Orlando, the fucktard Bloom, culminating in, since Katy Perry's married Orlando Bloom, well, engaged to be married Orlando Bloom, the massive run of luck of the royal family. Things have gone spiffingly well because their ritual worked. We had Prince Philip drives in his Range Rover out of the T-junction and gets T-boned and falls on his side. We get Prince Andrew being accused by Virginia Andrews of being a paedophile sex beast who was using her under the auspices of Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted paedophile, and his wonderful interview on Newsnight, where he fully proves that he, Prince Andrew, is totally innocent of being a paedophile and using poor little Virginia Andrews as his sex slave. All wonderful. And we know, of course, that Meghan Markle, married to Prince Harry, accused the royal family of abusive racism and ran off to Canada and took Prince Harry with her. And then, of course, we've got Princess Anne's son divorcing the wifey just a week ago. All of which proves the immense power of the Orlando Bloom fucktard engaged to the witch queen Katy Perry. That's had no detrimental effect on the royal family, who wish to use Katy Perry as the queen witch in their rituals. No negative effects, but has boosted them, using the massive power of Orlando the fucktard Bloom to raise the frequency and the worship of the royal family on a massive scale. Because, of course, since he's Jewish and he had the Max Spiers energy as an artificial nagwal, this top secret MI6 program has worked out perfectly, has it not? It's a complete success. It's worked out brilliant. And when, of course, Katy Perry marries Orlando Bloom, the royal family will go from strength to strength, just increasing the success that they've had in the past year. Now, looking at the process that was used, ritual sexual abuse, the whole principle of that is that you get young children and that you sexually molest them big time and torture them, this moves the assemblage point, if you read the Castaneda books, of the child victims, using the energy of the humans, which is sexual, into the centre where they are manifest. And you've got this centre here for the space-like body, this centre here for the dream-like, time-like body. And Mi6 tried to push it out of Max Spiers into Orlando Bloom to make an artificial Nagwal, because the four-lobe Nagwal can do all the super psychic shit. And as we've seen with the wonderful success that has come to the royal family since they have agreed that Orlando Bloom is the ultimate Illuminati king, and Katy Perry is the ultimate Illuminati queen, and yours truly is going to be sacrificed and all of his energy bled out into Orlando Bloom. Why? Because he's Jewish and I'm not Jewish. This, of course, will work. We see the massive success of the programme in the elevation of everything royal in the noosphere, in the minds of the world public. It's worked perfectly in Cloud Cuckoo Land. Now, the mechanism to move assemblage points and fracture energy bodies, which was used to push Max Spiers' energy into Bloom, SRA, my esteemed colleague will talk about. And it's no coincidence that Perry met the fucktard Bloom at a party in LA from Robert Downey Jr. And the relationship really took off in 2016, and the decision was made in 2016 that Bloom would to become the king of the Illuminati, which therefore meant that Spear would have to die. So there's no coincidence that Spiers was killed in Poland in 2016. The King George IV's Dolly Mop married the King of Poland. If you look on Jim Keith's Secret and Suppressed, you can see that. Now, of course, we're going to look into what Max Spiers was alleging, that the royal family were paedophiles and cannibals and all the occult SRA stuff, which my esteemed colleague here has researched deeply and is going to give you some meat. Conspiracy theorists normally talk about their thoughts and what is happening, but without any real names and without the infrastructure. Here, Celestial Paladin will go through in a comprehensive way SRA, the thing that was used on Spiers and Bloom to try and forge this universal fucktard, which of course has benefited the royal family so immensely. And of course we know Katy Perry used her immense witch power to boost Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party, who of course won the 2016 election and beat Donald Trump. So now you've got Hillary Clinton as president, and the royal family have had non-stop adulation from the public, and we're still in the Rothschild, One World Order, EU, in Cloud Cuckoo Land. So something's wrong because it's all gone wrong, the so-called all-powerful Illuminati are in disarray. And what they thought was control has turned into total disarray and chaos. So talking about chaos, over to my henchman here, who will cause more chaos by going into the SRA of the British establishment.
Firstly, I'd like to mention some of the things that are done to the children. I'm not going to go through all of that because there's so much of it.
Why not? We've got plenty of time.
Okay,
Let's just stick the knife in. Let's be malevolent.
Well, we could do that.
You know me.
Yeah.
I'm never backward in kicking the shit out of people. Take it nice and easy, don't rush. Just be...
I'll read from my list.
Slowly and nastily, with observations.
Types of SRA are child, adolescent and adult sexual and physical abuse, including torture. Abuse by multiple perpetrators.
That's every orifice.
Abusers both within and outside the family. Abusers of both sexes. Oral, anal and vaginal abuse repeated over years. Sexual abuse with objects. Sex involving animals and or snakes. Abusers in costume, clowns, harlequins, Santa Claus, animal costumes,
Stop you there.
etc.
Eyes wide shut, what were they
Yeah.
wearing?
Masks.
Exactly. Continue.
Witnessing abuse of other children of both sexes. Witnessing abuse, torture and rape of adults. Sexual abuse coupled with severe pain or torture. Childhood prostitution, often involving paedophile and or sadomasochist groups.
Stop you there. Happening in every British city.
Yeah.
Run by Pakistanis. Continue.
Being bound or gagged not only during abuse. Being half suffocated or strangled. Being scrubbed hard both externally and internally. Being burned, branded or tattooed on concealed parts of the body.
That's a norm for A-listers.
Yeah.
Look at Lando Bloom with his Morse code tattoo for his fucktard kid Flynn.
Being plunged into very hot or ice cold baths. Being held repeatedly underwater until near drowning.
No, that's Guantanamo. You get that for free there.
Yeah, free. having your head held in the toilet while flushed.
That's happened in my grammar school.
Yeah. Having nails pulled off or crushed with pliers. Teeth extracted or chipped without anaesthetic. Pins or needles stuck in the body, especially the soles of the feet or under the nails. Being dangled upside down from a height.
That's the Vatican banker.
Being shackled or manacled. Head put in a clamp and the screw tightened. Being hung upside down in water from a boat or a bridge.
Vatican banker.
Being spun on a wheel or rotated on vertical axis.
Any funfair in the UK?
Electric shocks to head, nipples, vagina or rectum.
School of Americas.
Forced ECT, repeated
Mental hospitals.
Yeah, frequently causing temporary
MK
amnesia.
Ultra.
Being shut in cupboards, boxes, coffins, etc.
That was that film with that American fucktard director torturing the Muslim terrorist. You know, the woman director that was married to Cameron?
Yeah. Being shut in cupboards, boxes, coffins, often with snakes, maggots, spiders, bees, wasps or other insects. Being buried alive with only a tube for air. Forcibly fed till vomiting, then made to eat the vomit. Forced to eat feces, maggots, insects, drink urine, blood or semen. Forced to eat raw animal or human tissue, including eyeballs and fetuses. Given enemas or laxatives producing diarrhea and forced to eat it. Being catheterized, bladder filled with scalding water. Being forced to drink excessive amounts of water without emptying the bladder. Given injections of muscle relaxants so unable to move or protest. Another type, psychological, spiritual, social abuse, humiliation and degradation.
What you mean, social media?
Social media. Childhood isolation, denied friends, not allowed to visit schoolmates.
Social
houses,
media.
or invite them home. Punished for crying or showing any type of emotion. Told they are evil and no one will ever love them.
That's Christianity.
That is. Told they are special and people outside their group will harm them.
Scientology.
No freedom of choice, controlled in every aspect of their life.
Western democracy.
Never allowed to mention abuse, even to the abusers or siblings. Given impossible choices with no right answer, punished whichever one they choose.
Western democracy.
Being hypnotised, given post-hypnotic suggestions, including having no memory of the actual abuse itself.
MK Ultra.
Given hallucinogenic or sedative drugs in drinks, tablets or injections.
MK Ultra.
Reality deliberately distorted, told they didn't see what they thought they saw.
Social media.
Taught to trust nobody, especially authority figures such as doctors, police, teachers, social workers and priests.
CNN.
Photographed or videoed naked while being abused or tortured.
That's boyfriend, girlfriend, sex videos. Normal.
Smeared with blood, semen or excrement, urinated upon. Locked in basements or coal cellars, sometimes for weeks on end. Buried with only the head protruding, then abandoned and later rescued. Forced to eat rubbish or leftover scraps from dog fowl on the floor.
Third world.
Dog bowl on the floor. Abused with Christian religious artifacts, crosses, candles, etc.
Any sort of Catholic institution.
Made to desecrate cemeteries and churches.
Satanists.
Grow up dreading Christmas, Easter and even their own birthdays. Given birthday and Christmas presents containing rotten flesh and feces. Hearing nursery rhymes with distorted, frightening words. Given mock operations or a small cut. Told bomb is being implanted which will explode if they talk about the abuse. Told spiders and other insects are watching them. Sometimes pull out the vagina or made to swallow them.
Tunnels of set shit.
Told they will be watched from inside by the eyeballs or insects that they eat. Threatened that disclosure of abuse will result in death of themselves, their pets, their relatives, anyone they love or any person they tell. Given specific dates for death or suicide, which may be years ahead. Taught to believe in the supernatural power of the abusers. Given magical names and numbers. Given objects which they are told have magic properties that can harm people. But if they part with them, where's the rest of that bit of paper?
I don't know. You
Well,
got magic.
There you go. I didn't have the next bit.
Don't worry.
There you go. Well, I'm going to move on from that anyway.
He's moving on.
I'm moving on already. And I'm thinking of going on to places. Where are we? I think I should do places.
So what we can see from that is that we have a pretty constructed and contrived set of methodologies to mind control victims, put them in a state of fear which interdimensionals feed on, and use that to try and suck out energy from the child victims. So we had Spiers and Bloom, who were abused at an early age, and the whole purpose was to dump the energy from Spiers into Bloom. And when Bloom had been decided to become the king of the Illuminati by being introduced to the new queen of the Illuminati, Perry, in 2016, he was ritually sacrificed with necrotic bacteria or compounds that turned his internals into black, dead, necrotic effluents which came out of his orifices. So one can see that rather than there being no infrastructure to using this methodology, SRA, satanic ritual abuse, is a means of moving the assemblage point of the victims to produce altars and to be able to displace energy bodies from the victims, which then can be moved into the receiver, telepathic hypnosis, but with bells on. So imagine with the Russian research, you had a telepathic hypnotic channel, the sender sending to a receiver. Look in the Ostrander Schroeder books. But imagine the sender being ritually abused, a bond of friendship and sex linkage where Spiers fucks Bloom, Bloom fucks Spiers to get the merging of their energy. When a woman fucks a man, she gives her energy to the man. So then we ritually abuse both these kids. Remember the Knights Templar were into Baphomet, which is male-on-male sex, to produce the Baphomet god. And here, of course, we've got Spiers and Bloom being the Baphomet worshippers to produce the Baphomet archetype. And ritual sexual abuse is there to displace as much energy as possible from one victim to another victim. And the new victim, of course, is great because the bloom that's produced with more energy is totally MK Ultra'd and totally under control. So it doesn't have ideas like yours truly that I'm going to use all this power to do what I want. No, Bloom does what his handler tells him to do. In the first case, wifey. What was the wifey? Miranda Kerr.
Miranda Kerr.
And the second case, KP. So we get the best of all worlds. We get a four-lone Nagwal man, artificial, because they're incredibly rare, and you've got to find one. And if you find one, then you've got to MK Ultra it to make sure it doesn't go against the Rothschild regime, because it might not like them, might not take orders. It could be like me. It could be a problem. So as you can see, ritual sexual abuse isn't simply fucking children. It has a more malign, unpleasant side to it, which is manipulation of energy bodies to try and merge them using the old Knights Templar technology, which was boy-on-boy sex, to merge the two boys together to get this four-lone Nagwal, which then could be used as an avatar of Baphomet, call it the Chaos Force, which then would enable the Knights Templar to be able to use strategic remote influencing to control reality. Hence we move more on to the details of SRA, names, places, etc.
We talked about before, the ritual in Canterbury Cathedral, the school in the headmaster's office, the bar of soap, so they forgot. And I'm just going to read out a list of locations. And not all these locations were used for ceremonies. Most are. Some for ceremonies, policy meetings.
So there's an infrastructure of SRA?
Full infrastructure. Even housing prisoners, or just a place to keep records where no one will go. And they'll never be found.
But you see, it all goes back to the Knights Templar,
Yeah.
who showed the efficacy of SRA.
Yeah. And you see there's been a few news reports in England of dog went down a rabbit hole, dug the rabbit hole up. Oh, there's a cave. What's in this cave? Oh, it's an old Knights Templar cave. Oh, there's a stone altar under it. Ooh, wonderful. No, not so wonderful, really. And there's a reason they're hidden. So let's just bring out this list. Penurley Lodge in the New Forest, used for meetings of cult members, not ceremonies. Colverley Old Farm in the New Forest. People have seen doll-like objects hanging in the trees at the times of ceremonies that actually take place there. I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to filter some of this in. Some of it's not so relevant, really.
He's filtering.
I'm filtering. Bitterstone House between Appleshaw and Chute, northwest of Andover. Beautiful Georgian house with a semicircular drive with 2 gates. There is a low statue below the drive as it circles in front of the house. Belongs to Lord Moyne, if he's even still alive. Connected to the Guinness family, and ceremonies are held there.
Where does this info come from?
This information was given to me on
No.
Oh, sorry.
But where did the information come from?
The victims
The
themselves.
victims, exactly.
The victims.
That's all we need to know, the victims.
Yes, the victims themselves, of course. Bewley Palace, the ruined abbey and the church. Lord Montague's place, many ceremonies held here or in the grounds. Many human sacrifices, often following torture or other punishments. Bodies either buried in the New Forest or cut up and dropped in the sea, weighted. And there's been a lot of rumours over the years about the New Forest. Strange groups gathering in the woods, funny lights and all sorts. There's a ruined church by the river in Christchurch, Dorset, used for gatherings at more than ceremonies. More than ceremonies.
Not more than ceremonies.
More than.
More than.
Old Sarum Castle in Salisbury. People have had very severe trauma in these ruined castle grounds.
So what we're actually saying is that there's a huge infrastructure in the UK of satanic ritual abuse, which goes back to the Scottish Rite Freemasons, who were the survivors of the Knights Templar, and the Knights Templar were all about boy buggery in order to produce the Bloom Spear vessel, merging 2 energy bodies to produce the 4-lobed energy body, which become an avatar for Baphomet. Holy shit! 20 seconds, all explained. Bang! God, I'm a genius.
And we're just touching on one edge of the country, on the opposite.
Oh, we do the south. We do the south. We don't even want to know about the north.
Sort ourselves out.
Northern cunts.
Old Sarum Castle in Salisbury, quite a popular tourist attraction. Both torture and ceremonies took place there, or take place there. Maybe pop up there on Halloween and have a look.
You can, I'm not.
No, I can't be bothered.
I won't be in the UK now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in there.
There's a Wetherspoons pub in Salisbury. It was formerly called the Townhouse. Many meetings take place there.
Cut.
Continue. Ludgershall Castle, a small ruined castle on the edge of Ludgershall, a village in Hampshire, northwest of Andover. Regular abuse and punishment of young people, but also many ceremonies held there. Same thing.
Now we've got to understand all of this comes back from the Knights Templar,
Yes.
who migrated to Scotland, built Scottish Rite Freemasonry, and all of this is basically Knights Templar.
Hurst Castle, near Keyhaven, Hampshire. This is built on a peninsula, a long walk along a sandy strip, but more readily approached by ferry from Keyhaven. Blah, 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 blah. A victim claimed she was sometimes hung from these... hang on. There are hooks and rings attached to the ceiling in this building, and a victim said she was sometimes hung from these by her feet, naked and then beaten and cut. Ceremonies were also held there. Coppins Ivor belongs to the Duke of Kent.
Aren't you afraid the royal family are going to come after you?
No.
No.
Used for meetings of cult members, including policy meetings, possibly meetings for commanders, in which case no robes would be worn, and it would appear more like a seminar or a conference. West Wickham Church.
What, pedo seminar or conference?
Yeah. West Wickham Church with the Golden Ball and surrounding buildings. Dun, dun, dun. It is situated high on the hill above the Hellfire Caves, where the so-called Hellfire Club held meetings.
George IV.
The church has alternating black and white tiles on the floor,
Checkerboard.
and it looks more like a Masonic temple than a church.
All Masonic temples have a checkerboard on the
Yeah.
floor.
Ceremonies are held in the church and nearby ruins.
And Bloom, of course, had the checkerboard shirt if you check on that.
Yeah. Possibly also in caves nearby. Osterley Park in West London, ceremonies. Black Park, west of London, Uxbridge. Pinewood Studios, West London, ceremonies held there. Sevenoak Forest.
It does seem to be that the infrastructure of the British deep state is devoted to Knights Templar
Yes.
rituals,
Yeah.
which are all about SRA.
Yeah, Black Park, west of London, Uxbridge. There's a large lake. Near Pinewood Studios. Ceremonies, abuse, drowning, torture, and other forms of punishment. Oh no, I've already said that, haven't I? Oh god, gosh. Sevenoak Forest. Yes, the red brick house with tall chimneys. Within the forest, ceremonies take place in the house and in the forest. Harwood Forest, east of Andover. Ceremonies, punishment. Police have actually found things hanging in the trees. Public toilets in Bournemouth, used as a meeting place. Skip that one. There is a house on the top of the cliff in Bournemouth that belonged to Max Bygraves, used for meetings. Highclere Castle near Newbury, Berkshire, owned by George Herbert, Earl of Carnarvon, yeah, spelled funny there.
No, just Canal.
Ceremonies held in the castle. Brearmore House near Salisbury. Ceremonies, torture, The hall has black and white alternating tiles, like a Masonic temple.
Yeah, checkerboard.
Highgate Cemetery, northwest London. Used for ceremonies, burials and desecration of graves. Arundel Castle.
Nice castle, isn't it?
It is a nice castle. Ceremonies take place there. And the daughter of the Duke, called Karina, was married to David Frost, actually now deceased, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, he's kicked the bucket.
Yeah. Computers with documents were held in a house in Lee Park, Havant.
Havant's a shit up.
Yeah.
Ever been Havant?
Many times.
Yeah, shit up.
I worked in Lee Park once in a pound shop.
Shit up.
Very nasty. Very nasty. Always trouble.
He's dummy.
Skip that one. Branksea Castle on Brownsea Island near Poole, Dorset, used for meetings and ceremonies. Epping Forest near Waltham Cross, Essex, used for ceremonies, also for punishment. Skip that one, that's just the house. A caravan in a caravan park in Poole, used for punishment.
They like their punishment, don't they?
They do. Charleville Forest Castle in Ireland. Ceremonies. Ooh. Castle House near Hawkhurst, Kent, Sussex border. Belongs to the Russian embassy.
I live in Vietnam, delete that.
We should
Next.
We should skip that. Marchwood, Hants, a church of St. John the Apostle. Things went on inside the vault, the gallery and the side chapel. In the front pews next to the main aisle there are several carved goats' heads at either end. Punishments.
Go to Mendes, yeah.
Amport House near Ludgershall belonged to the RAF. Was chaplain's school for armed forces. It has secret passages and underground rooms. Yeah, that's it for places.
Just from the south coast.
Yeah, and a few scattered.
They haven't got that
further
many,
up,
have they?
really.
No, not that many.
And there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
There's not that many. It's just, it's just a small number of miscreants in the UK. Most of the people are good, honest taxpayers, aren't they?
Oh yeah, very honest.
Yeah. Apart from people in the ruling class.
Now we're going to move on to people.
It's moving on to people.
Names.
Oh.
Abusers.
Well, just on the south coast.
People involved.
Because we live in the south coast, do it? Yeah.
Joseph Stein.
Stein, could he be Jewish? Possible. Possible.
Let's skip the next name. So we're going to
Why skip the next name?
We're going to expose it.
Why not? Go for
It's
it.
Joseph Stein's wife, I think. Was married to Martin. Yeah, Julie Stein.
Who is this?
Threatened to expose the group. Ooh.
Who is Stein?
There's loads of Steins here.
Oh, it's Joseph Stein. What is it?
Joseph Stein. He was a keeper.
A keeper of what?
A keeper of abuse victims.
What, paedophile sex slaves?
Yeah, considerable power over people. With many altars, and were hypnotised to believe they were in love with him and that he loved them.
Oh, like an Epstein.
Yeah, even though...
So the Stein is the South Coast version of Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, and a lot of the abusers woke up to him, really.
Gotcha. So Jeffrey Epstein is just one of many.
And this guy's son is called Matthew, lives in Hayling Island, of all places.
Can't be that.
And now we have you hear about hypnotists used.
Yeah. MK Ultra.
Don Taylor, known as Peter, a clinical psychologist who does the
MK Ultra
hypnosis using blue lights.
Produce alters.
Southampton, from Southampton, Kitchener. Website, dontaylor.org.uk.
So if you want to get MK Ultra alters, contact him.
Yeah. Lord William Rees-Mogg.
Lord William Rees-Mogg. Oh.
Interesting. That one.
I've never heard of Rees-Mogg,
No.
apart from Rees-Mogg in the Tory MP lot. Who's,
Geoffrey Levy, a Daily Mail columnist.
Libby,
Yeah.
Jewish again. Just by chance.
Skipped. I'm not sure if a couple of these are victims or actually abusers.
Oh.
I'm giving them enough information on that one.
Oh.
Susan James, the Records Department, Bristol Royal Infirmary, passes on messages and gives information about patients.
I think she's a low-lying fish.
Bruce Parker from Winchester works as a TV presenter on Southern TV.
Oh.
Yeah. Lord Montague, Bewley, also known as the Grand Master.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're not getting invited, are you?
That's where the good cars are, isn't it?
I'm keeping stum.
You've gone quiet, Tim.
I have. I'll let you hang yourself.
Mike Hancock, MP. Max Hastings, editor and journalist.
Telegraph.
Duke of Norfolk. Arundel Castle. Sir David Frost,
He
deceased.
did.
Katrina Prescott, Doctor, Brighton. Virginia Bottomley.
Yeah.
Virginia Bottomley, Secretary of State for Health during the 1990s, authorised Jean LaFontaine's research into organised and ritual abuse, and when the report came out she announced on BBC Radio 4 that she was delighted that the myth of ritual abuse had been exploded.
Yeah, we had this Scottish Islands stuff about satanic ritual abuse in the Scottish Islands, and it was proven that it was totally false.
Ted Heath.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, that came out in the papers after the Savile
Big
saga,
time, yeah.
didn't it?
And Cyril Smith,
Cyril
the big
Smith,
fat liberal pedo.
Yeah. Ted Heath was into children, according to these victims.
Yeah.
He has been mentioned by at least 5 victims. None of them know each other. Several of them described his long fingernails and that he wore false claws which he clawed his child victims with. The cult held the funeral on the 31st of July.
Of Teddy.
Oh no, 31st. 1st of July in August 2005. Dr. Robert Wells was a police surgeon in Winchester and Southampton, and he was actually convicted on June 2004 of raping and sexually assaulting young girls. He got 15 years in prison. Now this is interesting.
What is?
Dr. Shreyas Deepak Raj
What?
of Rustington, Littlehampton.
He doesn't look like a white boy.
No. He is available to the group for treatment of any members who are excessively beaten. Obviously you can't take them to hospital. Too many questions. He also does experimental operations to practice his surgical skills. Some years ago he did a bilateral mastectomy.
Yeah, chopping tits off.
I need to adjust my glasses. I've got new glasses and they're varifocal, so I have to...
No,
I'm looking at the right
just a
place.
fuck tie.
Just a fuck. Yeah. And
What's that?
tracheostomy.
Yes, put the hole in your throat.
Yeah. The latter went wrong and caused severe damage on the larynx.
Yeah. Yes.
for which he had to have a surgical repair job in France, not in England. This victim knew this person, spoke to the other victim, and her voice was very husky. David Queen, not sure if he was a victim, but he said he was killed by the group. Michael Winner, actor, writer and director.
Oh, the Jew director, yeah.
Yeah. Lord Peter Goldsmith, Attorney General under
Another Jew.
Tony Blair's government. Lives in London. When a victim was shown a photo of him, she said, "That's Peter Goldsmith. I've seen him at Bewley and other places."
He was the one who made the Iraq War legal.
John Hoddinott, former Chief Constable of Hampshire.
Oh, so it looks like the police were involved
Police were involved.
in covering up mass SRA.
Michael Barrymore, all over the news.
Who's
Current,
Michael
this is
Barrymore?
current. Michael Barrymore did game shows on TV, and a guy called Stuart was killed in his swimming pool, anally abused. There was other people there.
Were they homosexuals?
They were all homosexuals.
Or was he ritually sexually abused and drowned? I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
I don't know, I wasn't there. Clive Johnson, a keeper master.
Oh, sex slave holder. Locks them in cages and keeps them.
Brian Farmer, a forger on the Isle of Wight. I don't know what he forged.
Who knows?
Who knows? He does. Cross that one out. Some people might be lucky here, because I don't want to put people up if I'm not sure if they're victims or not. Richard Attenborough, brother of David, the climate change.
Yeah, the Messiah.
The Messiah.
Beatified with Greta Thunberg.
Friend of Greta.
Who is the poster child of our cameraman, Swedish cameraman.
Jean Lafontaine conducted research funded by the Department of Health under Virginia Bottomley. Interesting. The document was called The Extent and Nature of Organised and Ritual Abuse. Fontaine is said to be a high priestess or higher, and actually was attended Ted Heath's cult funeral ceremony night on the 31st of the 7th, stroke the 1st of the 8th, confirmed by people many times that she has attended important ceremonies at Bewley and other places. Referred to as the Fountain Lady, very cruel lady. Max Bygraves,
Another Jew.
entertainer. His flat in London was used occasionally for meetings. Wow. Then we have the enforcers. Enforcing the abused victims that they pick up on the streets.
Yeah, we know Weinstein had Mossad
Yeah.
to enforce and put his victims in line, and Epstein had plenty of Mossad enforcers.
Yeah.
And we know that Polanski was smuggled out of the USA by Israelis.
Jim Bullpit. Margie Laker, said to be a female enforcer.
Oh, that would be Ghislaine Maxwell these days. She was the female enforcer for Epstein.
Wow.
Who is still wandering around unprosecuted.
Mark Davis likes to be known as the Marquis. How do you pronounce that one?
Yeah, the Marquis.
Marquis. The Marquis.
By Marquis de Sade.
Yeah. Sade. known as the Keeper Master, a very arrogant man.
Sounds like Prince Andrew to me.
Wears a signet ring with a castle on it. Works in banking for Hamburg. George Wise, known as Jerry, another keeper. Carol Marsden, a female enforcer. Mick Jones, a male enforcer. Victim, aged 14, made pregnant by a cult. The baby was removed for sacrifice by caesarean section with no anaesthetic. Despite Raj's efforts to save her, she died. Raj, Dr. Raj, mustn't. Jason McAteer, a junkie and enforcer, killed by the cult with an overdose of drugs. Charles Clark MP. Peter de Savary.
Yeah, Peter Savary, yeah.
You know him? Heard of him. Ray Aldridge Morris, a psychologist, wrote many sceptical papers on satanic ritual abuse. Lord McAlpine.
Yeah, big time. Lord
Yeah.
McAlpine. Holy shit.
Alvin Stardust.
Yeah.
Michael Portillo, the politician.
Yep, the Queen of the BBC. I was on the BBC.
Rod Matthews, very high in the cult, being a commander. In 2004 he had some dispute and decided to give evidence to the police. He was forced to attend a cult ritual, was found guilty and killed by them at Halloween on the 31st of the 10th, 2004. David Richardson, male enforcer. D.I. Williams, Di Williams, female enforcer.
These are all at low level.
Both these two were considered not to have fulfilled their duties, later learned that they had been tried by the cult and punished. Both killed in ceremony. Wow. We have some watchers. Bertram Hodkinson, a Mason. Grand Order of the Water Rats, important in the cult as a commander. Ruth Kelly MP. She lowered the fetal age of permissible abortion and also attended Ted Heath's occult funeral. Lord Carnarvon, owner of Highclere Castle. William Chambers, a solicitor, helps the cult for cash, may not be a cult member or need to attend ceremonies. Margaret Kenwood, Winchester junkie, recruits runaway kids. Let's see me find some bad names. Reverend Crispin Hollis, R.C. Bishop of Portsmouth. He organised the group that people were abused in. Chief Constable Terry Grange, Dyfed Pop, I can't pronounce that one, it's Welsh.
Terrific.
Helps groups. He has now been discredited. Misuse of police funds and all sorts. Hang on, Barbara North, hospital administrator, lives in Andover, gives information on the fringe. Philip Compton, driver for the group. Lord Porchester, son of Lord Carnarvon. Anne Mahoney in Wales was in the national use and kept dead babies in her attic. You can look at some of this up. John Morriston, a high commander, very important in the group. Paul Boateng, an MP,
Yeah,
mentioned,
Boateng, yeah.
mentioned by survivors. We have Henry Marshall, a master, has a scar on his right shoulder. Lord Moyne, connections with the Guinness family. Marquis of Bath, Longleat. A victim claims ceremonies were held there and she has seen bodies buried in the ground. Giles Harrington, one of the hypnotists. Alan Williams, the new commander, known as the Judge. David Hunt, known as Merlin. Noel Jadeson, a minder. I'm going to skip this one. Stephanie Wiseman, a junkie used to produce babies for sacrifice or abuse. Julian Kent, a priest in London. Now let's look at who attended, some of the people that attended Ted Heath's cult funeral ceremony in Salisbury. Virginia Bottomley, Jean Lafontaine, Lord Montague, Lord Moyne of the Guinness family, Ruth Kelly, Education Minister, Charles Clarke, the previous Home Secretary, James Goodliffe from the MOD, Carl Merrington, Nick Fuller, Josh Robbins, Nigel Trayland. We have David Brindle, writes for The Guardian, cult member. Hugh Muir, writes for The Telegraph. Dr. John Bancroft, retired psychiatrist in psychosexual disorders from Oxford. Hugh Freeman, former British editor of the British Journal of Psychiatry.
Tavistock.
Yeah. Father Des Connolly, John the Baptist Church in Andover. Brian Duke, who was a teacher. Hakon Dakar, Greek, the overseer into sadomasochism. Masochism. Dun, dun, dun. Skip that. Tony Heaford, a councillor in Rochdale. Cyril Smith, he's dead.
Yeah, big fat Peter.
Yeah. Elizabeth Newton, child psychiatrist from Nottingham. Bruce Parker, I might have mentioned him earlier. Richard Ingram's former editor of the Private Eye.
Yeah. As you can see, the whole of the British great and the good are involved in SRA.
Peter Mandelson, former MP, British Commissioner for the EU for Trade since 2004.
Yeah, Blair's best buddy.
Previous. Involved in a cult in France and Brussels. Likes boys.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that one. Pays the cult cash for rent boys, but seems to be part of it. He ordered severe torture prior to the murder of a boy called Kevin, aged 17, a runaway from Newcastle, who had some hold over him and was blackmailing him. Kevin was tortured and killed, and his body was dumped in a sea on the south coast after being cut up.
Yeah. That's Lord Mandelson. EU Commissioner.
David Richardson and Di Williams, mentioned earlier, both killed in a ceremony in London. Forget that one. Forget that one. There's a few I'm going to write off there and just skip through. Kevin East committed suicide. One of the victims spoke of him as a flying fairy, or FF, and he jumped out of a window after taking LSD. Very cruel and sadistic man, liked watching snuff movies. Lord Drayson bought a house from Princess Michael of Kent. Lord Falconer, ex-Lord Chancellor.
As you see, the whole infrastructure of the UK is SRA, which goes back to Knights Templar.
I'm skipping out a few because there's a lot of victims, I don't need to read their names out.
And the victims.
Simon Thomas, a vicar in the United Reformed Church. So they're possibly in jail for abusing boys. Bob Woffenden wrote a sceptical article about SRA for the Private Eye, and also wrote anonymously. Kay Edwards, very sadistic previously, but since her own torture has been kinder. So some of them have tried to reform themselves, not made much difference. Professor Gisley Good Johnson, a London University professor, frequently acts as an expert witness in child abuse cases and SRA cases. He is paid £6,000, gone up by now, by cults for every SRA case he successfully discredits. Associated with Tony Baker, Charles Clark and Bill Thompson. Victim... No, I'm going to skip that whole page. In that one.
Cut.
Okay. John Curtis, vicar of St John the Apostle's Church in Marchwood, turns a blind eye and is rewarded financially. Not sure if the money is kept by him or it goes to the church. Alan Johnson MP took over as Education Secretary from Ruth Kelly. Both friends. Attended the crucifixion ceremony with the cross inverted in the New Forest early one morning on Good Friday, 6th of the 4th, 2007. Franz Vogel, German, Belgian or Dutch visitor, works in the justice system. Paul Kernahan, Chief Constable of Hampshire. Says in records that he has attended satanic meetings at the Masonic Hall twice in 2007. Peter Hain MP. You know him?
Peter Hain,
Yeah.
He's woke.
Is he?
Yeah, woke. He's woke.
Ooh. Resigned from his ministerial office over his failure to declare donations to his campaign for deputy leadership of the party. In cult records, says in the cult records as having attended satanic meetings in Masonic Hall twice in 2007. He wouldn't be able to attend without being a member of the cult. I might save the... See, these groups are also funded by people that donate money. I think I might leave that to last. Peter Tobin, that was all over the news in Lee Park. Kidnapped and raped 2 girls and he got caught. Can't remember how it got caught, it was all over the news. He was convicted of murder, but records show he's killed several people. Darren Macy, a victim, went to put money in a gas meter. He barged in and jabbed her and injured her, rubbed animal shit in her sores. Says put something inside, don't know what. Says he's got an eagle tattoo. Pat Knight gives injections and makes threats. Ex-army nurse. Ooh. Fiona McCowan attends meetings in the New Forest. Mother of Scarlet Keeling, who was murdered in Goa, India. Mark Oaten MP. Used rent boys. Was told he was not rough enough. And was photographed throughout for blackmail purposes, but he didn't seem too worried. Katrina Williamson, hypnotist. Used blue lights yet again. Hypnotised, drugged people, took compromising photos, injured people, gave a victim severe leg pain, back and shoulder, and the victim had no memory of the visit because she was hypnotised to forget. which was reinforced with phone calls. Sir Matthew Farrier, private solicitor to the Queen. Anyway, moving on. Jimmy Tarbuck, comedian, seen at Bewley at the summer solstice. Earl Spencer, brother of Princess Diana, also seen at Bewley at the summer solstice. Barry George, he was the guy accused of murdering Jill Dando. He was a new recruit. Sean Jenkins was also in the news regarding the death of Billy Joe Jenkins. Google that, mate. And last of all, we'll give you a list of names of, it's only a small list.
The fund.
Some of the people that funded on records the contributions from this group in the year.
What group?
The South Coast group.
Ah, they funded it.
Based from Lee Park. Yeah, funding stuff. So yeah, I suppose paying money to find.
They funded the pedo
people to be abused. Getting them drunk.
The pedo infrastructure.
Yeah. 16th of the 9th. So this was found in a locked computer room. I actually know where the building is that this was found in 2007. And the name on the computer, allegedly, say that word right at the very end, Ian McKellen.
Who's Ian McKellen?
Very famous actor.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Dale Winton.
Who's he?
TV presenter.
Dead.
Supermarket sweep. Couldn't imagine how he died, Tim.
No.
Elton John.
Who's Elton John?
He's a singer.
Oh.
Few people might have heard of him. Pam St. Clement.
Who's she?
She was an actress in EastEnders. Fat Pat Butcher.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Katie Lang.
Who's that?
Pop singer.
Well, lesbian one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say there's a lesbian here. And as a final note from me, the contributions from this group alone in that year, I probably just said that, didn't I? Numbered £80,000.
No, you didn't say that.
No, I didn't say that. £80,000 they donated between them.
Gotcha.
And that's just them. It could be more. And
That's
there is
just
a
a
lot
little
more.
South Coast group.
And that's just the South Coast group of SRA.
And we see that Spiers and Bloom just doing Knights Templar Baphomet ritual. So it isn't as if Mi6 invented it because they are too fucking stupid to invent that crap. They've just been doing the rituals to make the four-lobed Baphomet avatar, which then gives them power over reality. And this whole infrastructure, which includes all aspects of the great and the good of the UK for Knights Templar rituals, which involve, and at their core are SRA, where you sexually, ritually abuse the transmitter, which links up with Russian telepathic hypnosis, 60% of their psychic warfare program under the great Yuri Andropov, to the receiver, sexually abused. You've linked them before by having them have sex together, so Spiers and Bloom sucked each other's little penises and buggered each other to make the sexual linkage, and then you get one to transmit all of his energy to the other to try and make a vessel for the Baphomet entity, which is a artificial four-lobe Nagel entity, which then, since it is totally mind-controlled, the vessel is controlled by the handler, which is Miranda Kerr, now Katy Perry, and of course this creature is now going to be the new king of the Illuminati, with Perry being the queen of the Illuminati, working for the royal family. And as one can see, whole infrastructure just on the south coast to carry out this ages-old
small area. One
Yeah. Knights.
small area.
Templar technology. I finished. Up to you. I remember.
I finished.
Then
That's
cut.
it. That's all I'm going to say.